Why, hello everybody, and thanks for joining us today on This Is Drive. I'm Kyle Edward, and today we'll be looking at a pretty cool car, crossover SUV rather, and that is the 2018 Chevrolet Equinox. It is actually Chevy's second best-selling vehicle, just behind the Silverado. There are a lot of cool things to talk about with this vehicle, and today I'm going to basically start. We're going to talk about where it sits in the marketplace, things like that. We're going to talk about the exterior design, the interior, how it compares to some of the other vehicles, and then, of course, most importantly, some driving impressions. So, as I was saying, this is a very important vehicle for Chevy, and that, again, is because just behind the Silverado, the Equinox is the second best-selling car that they make. And that's obviously, whenever you're coming out with a new model, right, that's very important, because if it's one of your largest money makers, you have to be careful not to misstep, right? You want to keep the consumers interested with good design, good quality, and find out exactly what it is that they want and need from a car, and make sure to include that. Not to mention, find out what some of your competitors are doing, and try and up them as well. So I think that when they came out with this new model, they have a lot of thought into it, and some things make a really big difference compared to some of their competitors, right? So first off, I would like to note that this car is actually 400 pounds lighter than its predecessor, right? So that's around a 10% weight reduction, which is great because it's going to give us some more nimble handling. And of course, any power that we do already have, it's going to accentuate that and make it a little more powerful and more efficient. So it's always good when we can, of course, get a weight savings. Now, I personally am a really big fan of the new styling on the Equinox, and part of that's due to the projector-based headlamps and the LED daytime running lights, which are on up-level models only. And when you're just driving down the road, and what I'm seeing other Equinoxes, it's really a nice statement. You can see that daytime running light sort of staring at you. It's a nice styling accent point, and I really like that. But even just looking at the Equinox from a perspective of just overall design, I really like it. It finally follows that sort of Malibu and styling, and they're sculpting them more. It's it's like there's the Volt, there's the Malibu, and now the Equinox all share that same styling dynamic, and I really like it. Again, it's definitely grown on me a lot too since I saw it in the first place. Now, as I always say, of course, styling is personal preference, right? So what one person may see as a very cool looking car, the other one may not. So, looking at the rear of the vehicle, you'll see these nice LED rear lights, and I can really appreciate those, especially for the nighttime driving. They look pretty cool. The door handles actually have a nice chrome accent to them, and of course you are able to unlock it. It's keyless entry, so you push the little chrome button to unlock, and it works well. Now, of course, we also have the Equinox badging around the various parts of the car, and I like how they placed it there on the door. They also did on the Chevy Traverse as well, which is again another vehicle that shares some of the similar styling points as these other vehicles in their lineup. And I like how they placed it right there. It fits nicely, and I feel like it gives the Equinox and Traverse a more modern look as well, with just how they place different badging and things around the vehicle. I really like that a lot. And then, of course, coming finally around, just checking out the wheels. Now, this is a really special Equinox. We have the diesel, actually, and so you get these wheels. Of course, there are other ones which are a little sportier looking. These, of course, are pretty standard. They're good for fuel economy, and the little bit larger the wheel, you take a little of the rubber away, it's going to not give you quite as good of a ride quality. It will look cooler, look better, and that's my personal preference. Again, I like that. I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of ride quality for that, but nevertheless, that's the story there. So, we like the look, and especially compared to some of the other models and competitors that they have, I think the Equinox fits very well, and it's a nicely appealing to many different types of people, right? It's a very broad styling, and they're able to capture, I believe, a lot of different people with how they went about the styling on this vehicle. So now we step on into the interior of the vehicle, the cabin, where we spend the vast amount of our time, obviously, whenever we're in a car. There are a lot of cool tech features in here. It's very comfortable, and you know, the old Equinox had a pretty poor interior, if I do say so. It was very plasticky, it was ugly, and it was pretty horrible, especially compared to the other cars at the time in the class. It was probably one of the worst cars by far, as a matter of fact, as far as the interior goes. So when they came out with this new interior, I was just, it's such a refreshing, this breath of fresh air, and wow, it is fantastic. And it went from being one of the worst interiors in the class to one of the best interiors in class. And plus, again, there's a lot of cool features, right? We have connective technologies. We have the 7-inch or 8-inch digital mileage entertainment system. It, of course, has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and, of course, OnStar 4G LTE Wi-Fi hotspot, again, throughout the entire Chevy lineup. Buick, Cadillac, obviously included in that as well. But, you know, again, there's just these nice trim. There's nice trim pieces everywhere, soft leather. We do have some still pretty plasticky door panels, which is disappointing, but from a design perspective, it is significantly better. I personally am a huge fan of the steering wheel design, the 3-spoke. It's a little sportier. I really like how the buttons are placed. Same steering wheel that's in the Chevy Malibu as well, and the leather is very soft. It has some nice gripping points, right? So for 10 and 2, of course, and then there's also little bolsters up a little bit as well if you care to hold the steering wheel up there. And it's just a great wheel design. Again, very comfortable, well made, and easy to use. There's also volume controls behind the buttons on the back of the steering wheel, and you can also skip songs as well on the left-hand side, and the volume control is on the right-hand side. Now, we also have the climate control buttons, very simple, and I like the LED within the temperature control knob, so it tells you what temperature it's at, and obviously that changes as you twist the chrome knob. And I think it's a nice touch, right? So it makes it feel very upscale with having that in there. It doesn't show up on the screen, instead it's just all right here, and I really like that. Also, if you step down, there's this nice soft stitched leather, and there actually is there are a couple different types of leather in here. So there's just the regular smooth leather, and then there's also a dotted leather that they also kind of do on some of the Cadillac models too. And then they put that in here, and it looks pretty cool. Then the dashboard is pretty low, so it gives you a nice view out the front window. It's not too narrow. I will say the B-pillars are pretty freaking large, and it is quite obstructive to your view. But then again, you know, there are a lot of windows here, and it's really not terribly cumbersome, but they are pretty large. The air vents are trimmed in a nice chrome metal, and again, with comparing that with the interior here, we have the nice soft leather, the stitched leather, and let's bring in that nice chrome around the accents for the vents. It looks pretty darn nice. Moving along to technology, as I was saying, we have the 7-inch infotainment system in this one. It's the standard infotainment system. It does not include navigation. It does include the OnStar nav system, which is turn by turn, but it actually does not have a navigation system in place. And for the price point of this vehicle on the Premier model, it is a little bit disappointing not to have that feature. I believe this car comes in right around $35,000, and so to not have that is somewhat disappointing. However, the sound system is very good. It's Bose, very clear, crisp audio, and will definitely meet any of your basic sound needs. I'm a huge sound guy. I love music, and I found it to be more than adequate. Nice, again, clear vocals, good bass, so that's at least a good thing. But everything is controlled here on this touch screen system. So you have your buttons at the bottom to switch the radio, turn it on and off, of course turn up the volume, but then there are these other buttons on the screen. You can connect your phone, you can do the OnStar, And then if you scroll over, you can actually do the Chevy My Link. There's some podcasts in the Wall Street Journal. You can go for iHeartRadio as well. And then whenever you're on a screen, let's say on the phone screen, there's some buttons, designated buttons at the top as well, so you can quickly switch between screens, right? So if you're on the phone one, you just want to go to the audio one, you just hit that instead of having to go back to the home screen. So that's obviously a good thing. It makes it nice and easy to use and convenient. The screen is very responsive. It's very quick to react to your touch inputs, so that's important. And believe it or not, you'd think in this day and age that would never be a problem on any car, but you know what? Surprisingly enough, it is often an issue. So again, it's good that they do not have that issue on this car. Moving into the gauge display, it's pretty basic, but I do enjoy it. We are some red needles here for the dials, right? So within that, the display is pretty basic, you know. It controls some things. You can go through your speed, your trip, different trips, your fuel range, current fuel economy, oil life, tire pressure, fuel economy for the last 50 miles, average speed. There's a timer in there as well, and the diesel exhaust fluid level. Now, we're going to talk about the driving dynamics, and that is, in my mind, pretty much the most important aspect of any vehicle, because if it doesn't drive good, then it's really not worth having. What I absolutely love about Chevy here is that they just went ahead and said, you know what, we're going to offer 3 turbo 4-cylinder engines. So there's 170 horsepower 1.5 liter, the 137 horsepower 1.6 liter diesel, which is what we're in right now, and that actually comes with a 6-speed automatic, but again, I'll dig in more to that later. And then of course the top engine is a 252 horsepower 2 liter, and it has a 9-speed transmission, which is, by the way, phenomenal. Excellent transmission, fantastic, one of the best out there. So again, what I like here, turbos across the line, you get plenty of power and torque no matter which engine you choose. You just can't go wrong. And a lot of vehicles, especially in the base models, they give you these small 4-cylinder engines which don't produce a lot of power. They're not turbocharged and they're not good enough. But Chevy went ahead and said, hey, you know what, we're not even going to go there. All of our engines are going to be turbocharged, so that's fantastic. The Equinox starts at around 23,580. You can expect to see most of them around the dealer lots around the $25,000 to $28,000 mark. So, you know, pretty typical price point now for this size of an SUV. And moving along though to my favorite part about this car, and that is they went ahead and put a 1.6 diesel engine as an option up there. And that's really something that people, I feel, are unaware of currently. And diesel in America is something very odd to everybody here. And not to mention, we just had the big Volkswagen scandal about a year ago, so that's also been in the news. A lot of people are pretty scared of diesel and all that. You shouldn't be. Diesel's awesome. They make a ton of torque at low RPMs, and they're extremely efficient. It also makes this vehicle one of the most fuel-efficient SUVs in its class. We get 32 miles to the gallon in the city and 40 on the highway. Now, that's the rated model. I was actually experiencing around 45 to 48 miles to the gallon on the highway. Mind you, we are in an SUV. Getting 48 miles to the gallon in an SUV that is not hybrid assist is very impressive. Not to mention around 32 miles to the gallon in the city for an Equinox. That's very special. Now, again, it's a 1.6 turbo diesel. It's 4 cylinders, and it's connected to a 6-speed automatic transmission, which is extremely adequate. They didn't need to do a 9-speed because there's not a ton of power there to work with, so they didn't need to have all those different ranges and gears. 137 horsepower at 3,750 RPMs. Yes, that is not a lot of horsepower, obviously. It's not a lot at all, but we have 240 pound-feet of torque that coming at just 2,000 RPMs, and now that is where things get interesting, because when you have that torque available at such a low range, it just really pulls you right ahead. And there's plenty of power on tap, especially driving around the city. You will never be like, I should get a more a more powerful vehicle. I should have gotten the other engine. Not the case. So, is it a race car? No. Is it as fast as the 2-liter? Obviously not. Are you going to be able to go from 60 to 90 on the freeway in a split second? Absolutely not. But if you're looking for something that's fuel economy minded, or you do a lot of driving and you want to go, 700 miles on one tank of gas on the highway, then this is the car that you should be getting, no doubt about it. I personally really enjoyed this engine. I specifically asked for this model because I wanted to experience a diesel engine in an American SUV, which is very uncommon, and that's what they put in here, and I'm very excited that they chose to do that. I think it's a success for them. I'm not sure how many they'll sell. I hope they sell quite a few of them because it is, a really cool engine option. And I think it'll take people time to sort of come around to it. But hey, you know what? They showed it, and it's a really great setup. Now, the steering and suspension, I was very surprised. It's by far one of the best handling SUVs, again, in its class that I've ever driven. It's so connected to the road, and the steering is actually, it's not vague, and it doesn't feel spacey at all. It feels very connected to the wheels, and I was really excited to drive it. Hey, getting on the freeway entrance ramp, I was having fun in an Equinox because it handles so well, and the suspension is in tune to the road and what you're doing. It's just fantastic. I really cannot recommend the driving dynamics of this car enough. Close look if you're looking for something in this price point and this size. It's great for families, lots of room, great engine lineups, very efficient, good looks, nice interior. Could they improve on a few quality things on the interior? Yes. Is the design very good? Yes. But quality and design, obviously, two different things. Great design, and improve the quality a little bit on the interior. And I don't see why this cannot be the best vehicle in its class. Well, everybody, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this informative review of the 2018 Chevy Equinox Premier Diesel. Be sure to check out our other videos, and I hope everyone has a fantastic day.